Most fathers I know are building towards a life of regret and they don't even know it. So, over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a mental exercise that you can do that I have seen radically change the lives of fathers and prove to you that most of the advice that people give about how to leverage vision properly is only partially correct. Now, the main reason that people don't end up where they want to is because they are constantly trading today's discomfort and pain for tomorrow's pain. And tomorrow's pain is always way worse. But the problem is that it's really hard to understand the scope and the reality of tomorrow's pain because it's way off in the distance. And it's not real enough. Our brains, they just are often thinking about it differently. They think way more about what is here and now. And when you see these stories of people on their deathbed, like lamenting about their life, it's often because they wish they could go back 30 years and or maybe even longer and make some changes. They often wish that they would have been with their family more or dealt with specific relationships differently. Like they never are wishing that they had worked more, built a bigger empire, or closed another deal. But hindsight is always 2020. And so I want to show you this mental exercise that I use with clients because you can use it to get an incredibly better level of clarity. That's maybe not even appropriate grammar, but imagine Google Maps, for instance. You need a starting point in Google Maps, and you need a destination point in Google Maps in order to build a map. And what happens if you don't have good service on your phone? Like you've got the giant bubble and it can't pinpoint where you're at. And so it can't actually identify your starting point. And so even though you have crystal clarity on the destination, it can't even build you a map because it doesn't have clarity on where you're starting from. Now, if you know where you're starting from, but you don't actually have the grid coordinates or the address of the place that you want to go, you also can't get to where you want to go because you don't actually have clarity on where you want to go. And so both are necessary for you to be able to build a map to where you want to go. And, we obviously have trouble with this as men. We have trouble with vision. We have trouble with understanding the trade offs that we're making. And most of us can't build any kind of life of meaning because we don't have an honest and effective pathway. So I want you to, for a minute, consider your bad habits. These are all the lifestyle components, the issues that are in your family, all of your work dynamics, your level of involvement in your kids' faith life, your level of leadership at home, like all of the things that are currently accurate and active. Now, consider for a minute that these entrench over time. Like we all know that 80-year-old guy that's like, get off my lawn, and he's like really angry. And we're like, how did he get so selfish and opinionated and mean? Well, that kind of started as a little bit of a root early in his life and it entrenched over time and it became more and more a part of his identity and his character. And it's really hard to undo that. And so the same is true for us. The things that we have today are going to entrench further and further and further, and they're going to amplify the older that we get if changes are not applied to what we're doing. So I want you to take a minute and visualize who you'll become if nothing changes. And if you're like the clients that I work with, many of them have said for years that they're going to make changes, and they're going to make these changes when things slow down, or when that project at work is done, or when the kids are a little bit older, or we get out of the new baby season, or we reach a certain earning point in our career. But now they're years down the road, and there's still been no changes. And in large part, it's because we're not conscious about those trade offs that we're making. It's way too difficult to visualize what the pain or the discomfort that we're avoiding actually is in 30 years. Like that thing that we're creating. We're avoiding the pain and comfort and discomfort now, but we don't have clarity on what we're actually trading off for. And so I recommend you do this exercise to get clear on the trade offs. Imagine nothing changes. Imagine the worst case scenario. And I always encourage people imagine the worst case scenario because if nothing changes, the worst case scenario is on the table as a possibility. And oftentimes it is a very strong possibility. We can hope and we can pray that things don't turn out that way, but unless we take meaningful action, it is unlikely that we will avoid it. So ask yourself right now, how's your marriage? What would your wife say? Is it amazing? Is it shaky? Was it way better 10 years ago before kids? How about your relationship with your kids? Do they revere and respect you? Do they feel comfortable confessing sin to you? Do they come to you with challenges? Are they afraid of you? Or do they sense that they're actually getting the tenderness and love and firm direction that our Heavenly Father gives towards us coming from you? How about in the home? Is there disorder? Does it always feel like chaos more than peace most days? How many days a week do you pray with the kids and teach the Bible to them? How's your health? If you're not in great health, how long have you been putting it off? How many times have you tried to make changes only to fizzle out after a few weeks? Are your eating habits and your drinking habits and alcohol and all that stuff, is that out of whack? Are you sleeping enough? If not, how long have you been getting poor sleep? Now, imagine these things continue for 30 years. Like, play them out to the logical conclusion and the worst case scenario of these things. Like, I strongly encourage you to think about the worst case scenario. And for many of you, as you're listening to this, the worst case scenario is probably like distant kids, divorce, or a loveless marriage with a wife that's nothing more than a roommate. Your faith is not continuing through to your grandkids, your great grandkids. A heart attack at 55, diabetes. Like, this is what we want to get hyper honest about. This is helping paint the picture of the current starting point in our Google Maps analogy and what the logical destination is if we don't pick a different map. And the more brutally honest you are, the more likely you are to feel the idea of the pain tomorrow that you're currently making trade offs for. And then it's easier to make some meaningful changes. And that's really what I want to help you do, is to make changes so we can all be better fathers and build kingdom outposts with our household and our family on mission. So then from there, we can now begin to look at the destination point on our Google Maps, right? Like, where do we actually want to end up? And so we need to scour the Bible. We need to look for, how has God called you to live? Like, what is marriage supposed to be like? And what kind of rhythms are you supposed to have with your kids? Look at Deuteronomy 6 and Ephesians 6. How is their obedience towards you supposed to be? And their faith? And what happens if you live faithfully and obey the scriptures? What are the outcomes of that? We need to determine what good looks like according to God primarily, because each of us will stand before him as a believer at the judgment seat of Christ one day and give an account for our lives, give an account for what we've done. It says both good and bad in the body. And so this should be our aim and our trajectories, to honor God and to hear that, well done, good and faithful servant, right? So now that you've got these both these points kind of identified, you can see the gaps, you can see where things are headed, and you can compare them to the vision of fatherhood and family in the scriptures and begin to build the right map. The right map and the right playbook are the key. And so, if you want to begin the process of thinking through the map and you want to see the playbook that I've built for dads, just drop a comment below with the word playbook. Take a minute, comment below, share this with a friend who might also find value in catching a bigger vision for his life and his family. And I hope to see you in the comments. Until next time, rule well. I'll see you soon.